The king of the Grisarika kingdom summons Mutou Mitsuki from Japan to his world to grant him a power called Pure Concept, but Mitsuki is surprised when the king summons another girl from Japan and throws him out of the castle. He then meets Menou, a priestess who tells him that people from Japan with powers called Lost Ones have been summoned throughout history, resulting in Japanese culture taking over the world. Menou explains that society is split between the nobility, the noblesse, and the church, the Faust. Mitsuki discovers that his pure concept is highly destructive, and Menou kills him as she is an assassin for the church and specializes in killing lost ones before they can harm the world. She reports to Archbishop Orwell and reveals the existence of the second lost one, Akari Takito, who was summoned after Mitsuki. A flashback shows Menou's village being destroyed by a lost one before being trained as an assassin by Flare. Menou is assisted by Momo, her obsessed aide, and kills the soldiers who attack them, revealing that the king wants to overthrow the church and rule without their interference using Akari's unusually powerful pure concept. Menou then infiltrates the castle where Akari is being held. Akari discloses to Menou that her pure concept is a healing ability, but before she can fully explain, Menou kills her. However, Akari's power activates upon her death, and reveals that it is actually the pure concept of time, which reverses her body to before her death, effectively reviving her with no recollection of her demise. She contacts Orwell and explains that her power makes her immune to assassination. Concerned about a pure concept that manipulates time, Orwell demands that Akari be brought to her in Garm within 3 days for a ceremony that is intended to kill her. Menou discovers that Akari is absent-minded but romantic, yearning for adventure. Menou convinces her that the ceremony will return her to Japan, but Akari is disappointed, feeling that her meeting with Menou was fate. The church arrests King Grisarika for heresy, and Momo insists on secretly traveling with Menou and Akari to Garm. Menou warns Akari not to use her power, but she ignores the advice and uses it to heal a young girl's injured hand, causing Menou to distract nearby soldiers so that they do not notice. Akari is impressed by Menou's abilities, and Momo notices Ashuna, Grisarika's daughter, on the same train to Garm. Menou feels sorry for Akari, knowing that she is taking her to her eventual demise. The train is hijacked by terrorists who are seeking Ashuna. Momo discovers that the terrorists want to exchange Ashuna for their imprisoned leader. While heading to the train's roof, Momo meets Ashuna, who recognizes Momo as a priestess and attacks her, believing that her target, Aika, is on the train. The terrorists are defeated, but they reveal that their mission is a suicide one as they had swallowed ether crystals earlier, which then absorb their bodies and form an armored warrior to destroy the train. During the fight, Momo and Ashuna fall off the train and the warrior damages the engine, causing the train to speed up uncontrollably. Suddenly, Menou, Ashuna, and Momo experience extreme deja vu, and Akari joins them, explaining that she was worried. Menou defeats the warrior, but then she punishes Akari for risking her life and causing her to use more power to fight defensively. Menou realizes that she doesn't have enough power left to stop the train and is forced to borrow some power from Akari to halt it, leaving them both exhausted but exhilarated. Momo is frustrated when her duel with Ashuna lasts into the next morning with no end in sight. Menou cannot shake the uneasy feeling that the train did indeed crash and kill everyone, including herself, meaning that Akari must have reversed time for the whole world by several minutes, saving everyone. While on their journey to Garm, Menou remembers her past and how she lost all her desires and motivations after her village was destroyed and her soul was bleached as a side effect. She only felt the need to follow Flare, who rescued her and decided to become her apprentice after witnessing her kill numerous lost ones, despite Flare's warning that executioners are villains. In the present, Menou and Flare arrive at Garm, and Akari asks Menou to take her on a tour of the city later. At the cathedral, Orwell welcomes them and tells Menou to investigate the disappearance of young girls, while they wait for the special chamber to be ready in 2 days. Menou assigns Momo to handle the investigation so she can keep her promise to go out on a date with Akari. Menou and Akari continue spending time together until they must enter the special chamber, where Menou will witness Akari's death. Meanwhile, Momo follows a lead in the case of the missing women and ends up in the underground sewers, where she meets Ashuna. Together, they discover a summoning chamber below the palace implicating the noblesse in the summoning. However, Ashuna points out that only the Faust have knowledge of summoning, indicating that a high-ranking Faust member must be collaborating with the noblesse. Momo realizes that Orwell is the only one capable of such an alliance and sends a warning to Menou just before she and Ashuna are attacked by monsters. Menou attempts to disrupt the ritual but is stopped by Orwell, who reveals her plan to erase Akari's mind so that she can use Akari's pure concepts to reverse her own aging and become immortal. Orwell had been responsible for the missing women and had been using them in failed experiments to regain her youth before Akari was summoned. Orwell summons a monster to attack Menou, intending to use her as a sacrifice to power the ritual. During her battle against Orwell's monster, Menou learns that the Archbishop was responsible for destroying her home village by interfering with an Outworlder's power. As Menou is about to be sacrificed, Akari's pure concept of time automatically activates, allowing her to retrieve her memories and spirit to a certain point in time, and use her pure concept effectively before erasing her conscious knowledge of her power again. Momo becomes enraged when her hair ribbons, gifted by Menou, are destroyed by one of the monsters, causing her to damage the palace and attack Orwell's cathedral. This distraction allows Akari to reunite with Menou. Menou uses Akari's pure concepts to rapidly age Orwell to death and Ashuna departs. However, during their joining, Menou and Akari experience troubling visions of their future in which Akari inadvertently causes Menou's death after Menou fails to kill her. As a result, Akari wishes for Menou to be the only one to kill her before that fate can be realized. After realizing that her visions are actually glimpses of the future, Menou discovers that Akari used her pure concepts to rewind time by several months following Menou's death. This action caused Akari to lose her conscious memories of their time together. Menou takes Akari to the sanctuary, a supposed residential area for lost ones, and stops at Libel, a port city where the pandemonium, one of the 4 major human errors, was sealed away. The fourth, a group including Count Libel and his daughter Menou, who have a deadly feud with Flair, also operates from the city. When the fourth learn of Menou's presence, they plan to assassinate her to prevent her from interfering with their current plans. Menou decides to drug and send Akari through the fog wall that isolates the pandemonium from the rest of the world, hoping to eliminate her. However, Akari's power activates again, and she returns to Menou's side. As Menou's feelings for Akari grow, her determination to eliminate her weakens. In the meantime, Menou leads a young girl to an Iron Maiden-like device that harvests her blood. After failing to trap Akari in pandemonium, Menou returns to Libel with her, only to be ambushed by members of the Fourth. Although the attackers are defeated and arrested, Menou forcibly turns them into monsters to prevent them from revealing any secrets. The other members of the Fourth confront Menou about the monstrin, which is supposed to be an addictive substance they sell to fund their operations and hold people hostage with the threat of turning them into monsters. Menou admits that she secretly put monstrin in their food, forcing them to obey her orders as she seeks revenge against Menou for her mother's death. To receive travel funds, Pastor Silica asks Menou to stop the production of monstrin. Momo investigates the source of the monstrin and meets Ashuna again, who is also investigating the Fourth. Menou secures an invitation to a ball hosted by Menou but is forced to bring Akari along when she insists on attending. During the ball, Menou plans to sneak into Libel Island to gather evidence implicating Menou in the production of monstrin. However, Ashuna challenges her to a duel, which Menou reluctantly accepts, and although Menou manages to evade Ashuna, she misses her chance to scout the castle. Akari regains her memories and notices that events have significantly diverged from the previous timeline. Menou approaches Akari and reveals that she knows she is a lost one. In an attempt to figure out why the timeline has changed, Akari follows Menou. Meanwhile, Momo infiltrates the monstrin production facility and finds the girl inside the Iron Maiden. However, she triggers an explosive trap and is poisoned by a spike. Menou learns of Momo's discovery and asks Pastor Silica to surround Libel Island with the authorities as they now have enough evidence linking Menou and the Fourth to monstrin production. While the authorities besiege the island, Akari confronts Menou to get some answers. Menou explains that someone had informed her that Akari had reset the timeline several times, allowing her to acquire the knowledge needed to obtain forbidden power and change the course of events. She then transforms herself into a living shadow, using Monsterin and attacks Akari, but Menou arrives just in time to save her. Menou confronts Menou, who confesses that she wanted to gain taboo power to provoke the Faust into killing her like they did her mother, a lost one who was killed by Flare. During their fight, Menou fatally wounds Menou, who uses her own death as a sacrifice to summon the human error Pandemonium, a young girl who cannot be killed due to the nature of her pure concept, which causes her to regenerate every time she is killed. Pandemonium challenges Menou to find a way to defeat her as she summons an army of monsters. Menou engages in a fierce battle with Pandemonium, but her ether supply begins to dwindle. Luckily, Ashuna arrives and provides much-needed assistance, enabling Menou to trap Pandemonium with a powerful spell. Pandemonium manages to escape and summons a gigantic monster. Meanwhile, Akari attempts to heal Momo using her abilities, but she is confronted by a Pandemonium clone. The clone informs Akari that her repeated timeline resets are slowly causing the world to collapse, making it easier for Pandemonium to slip through a gap in the fog wall. Pandemonium also informs Akari that her desire to be killed by Menou is impossible, as powerful entities like Flare can interfere with the astral archive. Pandemonium also reveals a way for Akari to return to Japan. Outside, Menou realizes that Pandemonium's summoned monster can only exist for a brief period before being pulled back into the fog wall, a phenomenon that also applies to Pandemonium herself. However, before being fully pulled back, Pandemonium transforms into a monster for a final battle against Menou and Ashuna. Menou and Ashuna engage in a fight with Pandemonium, but are separated when she sends her minions to attack the town. While Ashuna protects the town, Menou fights Pandemonium alone, but is only able to win when Akari arrives to lend her a weapon and Ashuna gives her sword. Menou charges Ashuna's sword with Akari's ether and defeats Pandemonium, who reveals before dissolving that the Sword of Salt can kill Akari as it can destroy any pure concepts. This leaves Menou worried about what she would do if she found a way to neutralize Akari's threat without killing her. Akari suppresses her memories once again, and Menou and Akari decide to continue their journey together. Meanwhile, Momo sees Menou's growing bond with Akari and swears to kill Akari in Menou's place. Menou is revived by another Pandemonium fragment, and it is hinted that Pandemonium is her older sister sent to this world before her mother. Menou agrees to assist Pandemonium in spreading chaos throughout the world. Elsewhere, Flare is notified that Pandemonium and the human errors of the Mechanical Society are becoming active again. Encouraged by this news, Flare resolves to kill Menou once again to continue pushing Akari to reset the timeline.